Good morning. I'm already laughing, BJ. This is the Blaine's Roll webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and get more information about previous shows, future shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce B.J. Leiderman, composer, songwriter, among other things, for being my guest today. B.J., wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this.
Hi, everybody.
That is B.J. B.J., I don't know if I knew this. B.J. Bernard J. Leiderman is best known for his theme music compositions, public radio programs, including National Public Radio's Morning Edition, Weekend Edition, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Science Friday, and American Public Media's Marketplace. He's a composer, songwriter, entertainer, bon vivant, a whole bunch of other things.
Man about town
Um, a bon vivant. You live a good life.
is bon vivant. Oh, is that what I'm doing? Living good life? I did not know this what it was. Bon
Exactly.
vivant. Amazing.
Anyway, BJ, thanks for joining me. And so the first question I ask, and I
First of all,
consider this
wait a
often
minute.
be
Wait a minute. Thank you for
okay.
having me. It's been a long time. We don't see each other much except for this.
No,
It's good to see you. How you doing?
good, my friend. Anyway, BJ, the question just remind me, if you would, as a kid, you grew up where?
I grew up in I was born in Norfolk, but grew up in Virginia Beach, sister city, because I don't know why. I don't know why. There was nothing in Virginia Beach in 1956. There was one road, went to the beach to Norfolk, from Norfolk to the beach. There was a hotel, a Cavalier, famous Cavalier Hotel, and then most people don't know this. There was a little whorehouse tucked in the corner somewhere in the neighborhood, next to a very small airstrip. A congressman used to fly in and fly out, and fly in and fly out, go to the beach, have a lunch and dinner at this place called Steinhilber's. Isn't
Nope,
that a great name for a restaurant? Steinhilber's,
I
yeah.
didn't know that. So, as a kid growing up, did you always know you wanted to be a musician?
No.
When did you get into music?
My mother used to play piano for me when I was, I guess, started 3 or 4 years old, probably before that, but I remember sitting underneath the piano and she would play me these things by Rachmaninoff and show tunes, pop tunes, Nola. I mean, she was pretty good. I mean, she sort of had to fake through some of it, but she would narrate some of these things, and I was entranced. And I guess I knew it was watching the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan's show. That's the night that I knew something was going on here that was not of this planet. And my mother and father and all my friends' parents didn't have a clue. Some of them did. They were hip, but and my father worked at a department store and he started bringing home Meet the Beatles and
All right.
all the albums. And they let me set up. I stole some pots and pans from my mom's in the kitchen. The pot top on a
Okay.
hung by the handle, on a string as a symbol, and just beaten with wooden spoons on boxes and pots and pans. I drove them a shuggy.
So, did you have as a kid, did you get piano lessons?
Yeah, they sent me down the street, and that's basically the reason I didn't like to go because I had to walk. It was about a mile. Okay, a half mile, but it seemed like a mile to me. But I had a good friend, best friend, by the name of David Lively. He played drums and piano. We went to the same, it was husband and wife team that taught us piano, Walter and Carol Nuna. And we'd go down there and we'd come back and teach ourselves Beatles songs from the records, note for note. And one day, Carol Nuna said to me, BJ, I don't know what to do with you because she would come in from her house and I'd be already on the piano playing Beatles songs. So she said, I'll make you a deal. For every classical piece you let me teach you. I'll teach you a Beatles song. I said, this is great. So we do a classical piece, and she pulls out a Beatle, sheet music, and we start playing it. And I was despondent because the arrangements of the sheet music back then was nothing like what the record sounded like. So I'd go to her, no, Mrs. Nuna, it doesn't. It's like Lady, dun, 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 dun. And she looked at me, she called up my mother and said, Diane, get him out of here. He's way past this.
So, as a kid, were you like in school? Were you in bands? And
Yeah, with David. He got together, it's the first band we've ever been in. It was his band. It was called the Lively Sound Dimension. LSD in psychedelic painting on the drum, on the big bass drum head, if you can imagine that. And our first gig was the sixth grade art fair or something like that. And we were put in the music room, regular classroom, chairs gathered around, and we were at the front of the stage in front of the blackboard. And we needed a PA system, a microphone. So I asked my friend Sammy Schwartz if he could ask his father if we could borrow his 16 millimeter projector, which had a speaker. I mean, the school had one. I just didn't know that. The way when they showed films in the olden days, they would put the speaker, unwind the cord and put the speaker at the front of the classroom. Well, Sammy's projector had a microphone and a microphone input. So we taped that to a mic stand and we put the projector off in the corner shining. You had to turn the projector on, So the light was shining. Projector was just lighting up the corner of the room and we could sing through this microphone. It was crazy.
do you remember the first paid gig you ever had?
Oh, that's a great question. You get a cookie because you're the first interviewer that's ever asked me that question.
Well, always
Nobody
interesting.
from NPR, anybody, nobody's asked me that question. Blaine Greenfield asked asked me the question, and the answer is no, I don't.
Or one of the first ones. So
I
you
say
never.
I don't think I've been paid up to this day.
Well, I'm disappointed because I thought I'd seen the background, the $10 bill, framed the first time anybody ever.
That's still at the bar
Yes,
that I closed.
you spent it. So you in sixth grade you form a band. When did you start getting gigs?
Um, there was another band in between this band with David Lively and what I would call my first honest to God real rock and roll cover band. That band was called SME 2, Roman numeral 2, because I joined it. A few people left and they had me and another guitar player join. So they called it just the second edition of SME, SMEE. Is that familiar? That's Captain Hook's first mate in Peter Pan. I think it was Mr. Smee. That's the name of our fakakta band. We were great, though. There was a band in between just for a few gigs. At one of them at the Cavalier Hotel that I just mentioned that was near the you know what back then. And that was just, it was short-lived. So my first band was, gosh, I actually I just found the the notebook. It's a accountant's notebook with columns and stuff that I would keep track of every payment I got from this band. So it was 1977 to 78 in Virginia Beach. Down at the beach, down at the ocean front, we played clubs there.
And so
And
yeah,
when I
every
joined the
pay
band,
yeah,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Every payment you got, so it went back into equipment or other stuff?
No, no, actually, I mean, the leader of the band was the bass player. Okay, so he's the real leader of the band, but he wasn't the lead singer. The lead singer was getting all the attention, right? Because I mean, he was gorgeous and he played great and he sang wonderfully. Don Ziegelbein, Donnie Z, a blessed memory. And but I mean, it said Country Comfort. That's one of the places we play. It had the date, Country Comfort, and then it said $43.92. And then the next payment was maybe $90 or something. The next payment was $28. And then all of a sudden there was a $300 payment because we traveled. We went to Vail, Glenwood Springs, Colorado. We kept going out west to LA, actually. Excuse me, Santa Barbara. We played a club there. And the last time we toured, we ended up at the 1129 Club on State Street in Santa Barbara. And to our not knowledge, while we were playing, Kenny Loggins and Mike Love were sitting in the back of the place, and they cornered George during a break. He didn't tell us any of this until we had already broken up because we were on our way out. He said later on, he said, "Well, I got to tell you guys this. That last gig we had, we were offered a deal by the Beach Boys and Kenny Loggins to come into the Beach Boys recording studio, stay on the West Coast. We had about 6 or 7 originals, record our originals and give them first right of refusal. And we could do, if they didn't want to cover the tunes and record them themselves, either the Beach Boys or Loggins, we could keep the tape and put it out because we only had like 1 or 2 singles. We worked very hard.
How
We
cool is
worked very
that?
hard. It was a fun
So
band.
go from there then. So you were knowing at that point in time you wanted music to be your career. Is that
You know what? There was a jump from doing this kind of stuff. But let me backtrack just a second because in order to join this band and tour across the country, I needed permission from my parents.
how old
Okay.
were you then?
I was 21 or 20 or 21. I was going to American University, and let me see if I have the chronology right. Um, yeah, 1977 was American University. Anyway, I took a year's leave of absence. I went to the dean. I did it right. I said, I'll be back in a year. My parents said, look, this is what they told me later. I said, Sammy, my mother said, Sammy, let him do it. Let him do it for a year. Hopefully he'll get it out of his system and he'll go back to school and be a doctor or a lawyer, whatever the hell it was they wanted me to be. And this is a note to you kids. Kids, don't listen to your parents. They have no idea what you want to do. You know what you want to do. Find the thing that you would do that you love so much that you do for free. There's a job out there that will pay you money to do that. Tell your parents that's what I'm going to do and tell them where they can put their college or whatever plans they have for you. That's my advice. You're going to cut that out, I know it. But
No, but you were lucky they supported you on that.
oh no, they were great. They
Yeah.
were great. I mean, they knew what they were doing when they sat me down in front of the TV and turned on the Ed Sullivan Show in '64. They knew that that was like giving me LSD or something. You might as well just you change. Anyway, they were changed too by it. Okay, so the right turn that happened between band one and band two is I finally went into the recording studio and recorded my first jingle. And the way that that happened is my mother had a friend who sang. One of her best friends was a singer in the theater, and she wanted to do something professional. So she said, "Why don't you get BJ to write a jingle for me? I'll get the client. I know a guy who owns Nautilus Health Spas, the weightlifting equipment in Hampton Roads, and he put up the money. We went to it was in Richmond. It was called Alpha Audio. It later became Candy Apple. Very famous studio in Richmond, Virginia, 8-track studio. I walked in there and I saw drums and all kinds of percussion instruments and synthesizers and a grand piano already mic'd. I was like a kid in a candy store. I had the jingle written already. I did a demo on a cassette on my mother's piano and played it for the client. He said it's great, and so we went up there and so I had it on a cassette. My first jingle.
Do you remember the jingle?
Yes, sadly. It went, be good to your body, and then a sound effect. Wow, look at that bod. Take care of your body. Be good to your body, and all of this will be good to you. We can build you up. It was the corniest TD thing I've ever done. But they loved it, and it became the way I was able to finagle myself to the next gig. I took that cassette around to ad agencies, and said, "Yeah, I know this is cheesy, but if you've got a client, I'll do a jingle on spec, which means if they
Right.
like it, you pay me later. If you don't like it, I'm on my way." And before you knew it, you asked me, "So how did this NPR stuff all happen?" Jingles. I gave the cassette, which had about 10 or 15 jingles, my jingle demo cassette, to a dear friend of mine who happened to be the head engineer at NPR. Would you like to hear this part of
Yep.
how
Go
it
for it.
continued? And he'd had it, I don't know if he did anything with it. It'd been, months and months and months since I gave it to him. And one day I get a call from him saying, "Hey, Beach, they're doing putting together a new morning news show. That all things considered had been on the air for 5 years or so. In the afternoon, they're doing a morning version of that. I'm going to call it Morning Edition. Would you like to demo for the theme?" I said, "Yeah." And so this was I believe it's 1978, this summer, because I was a spring break, and I went back home. The guitar player in SME 2 had a little recording set up in his garage. It was a 4-track reel-to-reel tape recorder. Okay, the TAC, the hardest thing to get to work and to keep working. But so I grabbed the keyboard from my band, which was an ersatz, meaning this was before the days of real synthesizer. This was a little cheesy piece of crap that did piano, organ, sort of a French horn type of effect, a really sappy string effect. Okay, so I had the piano track, I came up, well, when spring break happened, I went right back to my mother's house, sat on her piano, and the damn melody came out really quickly. Ba 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 ba. And I couldn't believe it. I had it. So I went to Taco's garage, and I did 4 tracks. French horn for the lead. Ba 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 ba. Um, and the one thing that was the hardest thing on this was that the original producer, his name was Jim Russell of blessed memory.
Okay.
He he liked what I brought him, uh, but he didn't stay. He left NPR just a few months before it went on the air and turned me over to the next producer, Jay Kernis. And Jay told me that, look, this is going to happen 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Most member stations will be coming out of classical music. Is there a way you can, write a piece such as it sort of sounds classical at first and then morphs into a modern day your theme? I said, yeah. So when we went in to do the final recording of the real thing with real instruments, I was on a clavinet type of setting. It's sort of as close to a harpsichord as you can get, with a flute setting on another track. And it was like a fugue, sort of dun 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 dun, do 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 do. It sounded classical enough. And then the chords built do do da da. And then the famous whoosh, 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 bam, ba, bam, and we're into the modern version. And the way we did the whoosh was it's an old Beatles trick. You can hear it on, oh Lord, the backwards guitar solos on Revolver um, and other stuff. You took the tape, the 2 reels of tape, and you flipped them so that when you hit play, you heard your song going backwards. So on another piece of tape, we hit record, and I hit a cymbal and the first chord of the modern part of the theme on a piano. And so when you flip the tape back the right way and hit play, you would hear this eerie ghost with the piano chord coming in the right key, and bang, you're right there when the first chords of the song come in. Anyway, they loved it. It did what it was supposed to do, and you and I are talking now.
And the
End of
incredible
story.
thing about that whole story is that they used that for how many years?
Almost 40.
Yeah, that is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I'm darn lucky.
Yeah.
I was at the way I explain it is I was at the right place at the right time. I mean, without Skip Peasy to look out after me, and without Jim Russell before he left to start his own. I mean, it could have been dead. He took the cassette of the demo and he marched it into the creative meeting with the new people and he put it on the table and he said, "This is Leiderman's theme. We like it. Use it."
For 40 years they did.
Yeah, they did.
Let me fast forward a little bit,
Yeah.
BJ, to get through this program.
So,
You're doing this work for NPR.
yeah.
I'll ask, this is going to be tough for you. Give me
Okay.
the Reader's Digest version then, from there till how you got to Asheville.
Um, I can simply say that, one show begot another because they knew that they had someone who could write a decent theme and a decent melody. And when someone in the business, whenever you've got someone like that, you tend to want to stick with them as long as you can until he screws up for you. Um, but how I got to Asheville was this. I used to go, this is back to my childhood. My parents sent me to summer camp in Hendersonville,
Okay.
a boys and girls camp called Blue Star. And I loved it. I was from 10 years old or 12 years old all the way through teenager. They had a thing called Teenage Village, which was the riot. Girls and boys, teenage girls and boys living together. It was crazy. And then I became a counselor and started the first radio station. I was the head of, we called it WCBS, Camp Blue Star. It was one of these stations that was low power. So, you could only get it with a transistor radio at the camp, walking around in the camp, or plugged into the AC. If you went across the street, you couldn't. So I would teach these kids how to cue up a record. And for the records, the son of the camp leader, he was in his teens, he was told to give up his entire record collection and bring it to this radio station. So we had his Jimi Hendrix and his Beatles and his Rascals and everything. So it's just teaching, you could choose radio station as an option, the same way you could choose canoeing or kiln clay making or whatever. So I had these 80-year-old kids come in for one class, teach them how to cue up a record. And we made some commercials on old-fashioned eight-track carts. It looks just like eight-track cartridges. You record it, and it stopped at the beginning of the commercial, and you'd hit the play button, and they knew how to work all the gear. Kids, they could. And I would go out with my transistor radio and get in a canoe and float around in the lake, listening to the kid would go, "Okay, the next song is Purple Haze by who's by Jimi Hendrix." And the dun, 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 dun. And it was great until, of course, I heard the dead air. It was going to be dead air, and I paddled my ass back to the back to the shore and ran to the station.
I can just imagine the commercials they were doing also.
Oh yeah, I have them somewhere. I gotta. This is going to be part of the film, I guess.
Well,
This
or
Fakakta.
talk about two things. You're saying,
Yeah.
you tell me off the air, in the back of your mind, you're working on a film.
Well,
You
it's
over
either going to
here,
be a film or a. I hate to say podcast. It's going to be some sort of either audio event or film event.
but I love the name for it. The name
It's
of it
it's
was,
called Being BJ.
I just love it.
It's not too original, but okay. So coming to Asheville, when my mother died of blessed memory, 2010, I took about a year to get her affairs in order and sell property and all that jazz. And I was cut loose, kind of. I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. I had no necessary connection, to stay in Hampton Roads. I mean, I had my friends, but I felt this sort of breath of fresh air that I could reinvent myself once again. That was my sort of my magic trick in life. Every so often a door would open that was over here on the right. It wasn't quite what I was, trying so hard to succeed at. It was something totally different. And I would always quit what I was doing and start this new thing. So I figured I had one friend here who's passed away, a blessed memory. I'm glad you're getting this because I'm next. Um, and I figure, well, I've never lived in the mountains before. And I remember how much I loved the beauty of the mountains when I went to Blue Star in Hendersonville. So I came out here, I drove out, and I remember this is when I was driving, was listening to this really good song. It sort of sounded like the Beatles. I didn't know who it was. It was a station, um, the one in the Microclimate University, whatever they're called. Not BPR. It was the other station that plays rock and roll over here. I can't believe I'm blanking on this. Anyway, I called them up from, and I said, Joe Kendrick was his name on the air. And he said, "Oh, BJ, we know you. How you doing?" I said, "Joe, who is that you just played?" He said, "Oh, that's McCartney." It was a great song called "That Was Me." It's an autobiographical tune. And it was one of the last albums to me that I could listen to before his voice started to turn bad. And anyway, on the way, he said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "You want to come over here and be guest DJ in the morning?" I said, "Not really, but yeah." How early? 8 o'clock. So what I didn't know is that sometime after we had that off-air conversation, he went back on the air and said, "I just had a phone call from, NPR's theme composer, BJ Leiderman. He's coming to Asheville to look for a place to live." So I'm still driving to Asheville. I'm in North Carolina. This signal, they bounce it from one satellite to another. So I got it on the other side of the Virginia line. I wasn't even in North Carolina yet. But I stopped at a rest stop. I checked my email, and there was an email, first one from a place in town called Alpha Real Estate. And had a couple of pictures. I clicked on the pictures. It was this beautiful view of looking over the valley of 70 onto Seven Sisters Mountains, right over the top of the Ingalls mile-long warehouse, right? I said, "That's beautiful." The second picture I clicked on was the front porch from where that first picture was taken. So I called Alpha. I said, "I'm coming. Can I see this? Can I pick up a key and see this thing right now?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "I have a dog." She said, "There's a big doggy door in one of the doors. Your dog can go in and out." And I went up there. It was off Lytle Cove Road in Swannanoa. And it was breathtaking. I sat on this swinging porch and looked. It was a 180-degree unobstructed view of over the valley to Seven Sisters. And I called the guy, and he knew who I was. There's a certain benefit to having the name BJ Leiderman. And still, I don't know how long that's going to last. Anyway, so I put my down payment down. I went back home, packed up everything, and my ex-wife and my another friend, we drove in my car and a U-Haul trailer with a dog to Asheville. And that was 13 years ago almost.
Yeah, and I met you shortly thereafter when you came to Asheville.
You were one of the first people that, opened your arms to me and made people realize that I was here.
Well,
God, after you, I couldn't turn them away.
well, no. But I remember it just blew me away. You made quite a debut in Asheville because all of a sudden you're doing all these shows and concerts,
Yeah,
mountain,
right.
elsewhere. And
Bob at the White Horse
yeah,
and
good
Don, they
guy.
they
But yeah,
opened
you were
their arms
just
to me too.
playing all over. And then shortly thereafter, but you also then put together, what was it, your first time you put together a CD of your music?
I had been talking about doing an album for 25 or 30 years. And the folks back home in Virginia Beach, especially a certain guitar player who was quite big and muscular, he said, "BJ, if you don't, you're going to Asheville. If you don't have an album in 2 years, I'm going to come up and beat the hell out of you." So, of course, I invited him to play on this album.
Oh, and did he?
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I really wasn't thinking, as soon as I moved here, I wasn't thinking I need to hit the ground running and get this album going. I was walking downtown one day, and a gentleman that I'd met at Jubilee was walking on the sidewalk across the street. He had his phone up to us. They said, BJ, come over here. Come over here. You never guess who I got on the phone. I said, who's got on the phone? He says, his name is, it's Mixer Man, Eric Seraphin. He's a pretty famous producer from LA. He just moved here. And he doesn't have anything to do. He doesn't have a project right now. Um, and I talked to him. He said, yeah, come on by. Long story short, I went to Eric's place. He listened to the songs. He loved the songs. A couple of steps happened in between. Um, and I got introduced to the Randall Bramlett Band from Athens, Georgia, as the backup band. And my friend and sometimes assistant Barbie Angel, you know Barbie,
Ah.
she's at Leaf, one year at Leaf, she said, come back here, come backstage. Bella Fleck had just played, and she took me backstage, and there's Bella, and she introduced us, and she says, Bella wants to hear, you know, some of your album. Anyway, I gave Bella the demos, and he picked three songs. He said, I'd be glad to play on these. So Barbie took me to Nashville to Bella Fleck's home studio, where Bella Fleck let me produce him doing these wonderful banjo pieces to three instrumentals that are on the album.
Oh.
So that's one album, BJ. It's called BJ. I'm not doing a second. That's it. One and done. In
Well,
and out.
my favorite part of the album, of course, is you had your mother on it as well. Um,
Yeah. I'm probably going straight to hell for that.
no,
When
that's
mom
not true.
died, you know, the voicemail
Yeah.
was still the account was still while her account was still active. I hooked up the phone to the recording to my computer and got all and actually the voicemails that she left for me. That's what they were. PJ, how come my VC and every voicemail was a ploy for me to get over there and see her. You know, that's all it was. How come my VCR keeps blinking 12 o'clock? Why is it always 12 o'clock here? And finally I went, Mom, Congress passed a new thing. You heard of daylight saving time? Well, now from now on, it's noon all the time, day and night. It's nothing wrong with your VCR. I'm not coming over.
But always remember that's part of that's part of remember. PJ, time wise,
Yeah.
let's fast forward to
Yeah.
what's coming up then. So
Yes.
you're now performing again locally and coming up in what, 2 weeks you have a show coming up?
Yes. It's for BPR. There's a new regime, so to speak, there. There's some new blood, a new CEO and a general manager. Um, we're throwing a party, basically. The title of it's called Be the Lifeline. They don't know it, but the real title is Concert with the BJ Leiderman Band. It's a concert and fundraiser. And it's going to be held at Highland Brewing, which is on 12 Charlotte Highway, not Charlotte Street in downtown Asheville. This is the little Charlotte Highway that goes down from 74A. Anyway, Highland Brewing, it's in the afternoon on Sunday, September 28th. That's the last Sunday of the month. Doors open at 2:30 and the music and the fun begin at 3, goes to about 5 or 5:30. And we're going to be playing a lot of the old favorites from Beatles to Elton John to, the stuff that people love. Oh, and yes, they're going to have me play the NPR themes too. I think I'm going to do it to a video
Very cool.
that was done of me playing on stage with an orchestra. So they can put that on the screen, me about 10 years ago, 10 years younger, and I'll play to that.
And how do people get tickets for that?
Yes, simply go to bpr.org and just scroll down a little bit, and you'll see before too long it'll say Be the Lifeline benefit concert. You'll probably see my picture there too. And you can reserve your tickets there, bpr.org.
And you mentioned you have a band for this. Who's in the band?
It's my usual wonderful first time ever BJ band people, with one exception. We've got still have Stephen Cohn on bass and James Kyland, who used to call young James Kyland because he was like 20 when I first met him. He's on drums. Paula Hankey is gonna
Oh, great.
do some vocals and do harmony with me when I sing lead, and new guitar player for us for this is Rick Callahan. He's not new. He's been around for a long time. He's great, and it's going to be fun. We're going to play one set, three sets that total an hour. So it's since it's such a short concert, and it's an afternoon thing, and afterwards we'll mingle on the upstairs outside patio. So,
Sounds like fun. And BJ, I have to ask you then the one other thing actually why I wanted to speak to you originally, but just recently I saw you're undertaking another venture in the
oh
life of
God,
BJ.
oh
Because you
yes.
said every X number of years you reinvent yourself and talk about the latest thing you're doing with the piano, with the
I
lessons.
have never given piano lessons before, and all through my life, people have been coming to me asking would I teach them how to play piano. So I don't know. I guess this is what I usually do. I I announce something before I have any clue of how I'm going to do it, you know? And so I announced on Facebook that I'm giving one-on-one piano lessons, and the idea is I'm going to teach you how to play how BJ plays. That's all. I don't read music. I'm not going to teach you classical stuff. You don't have to know how to read, notation, none of that. I'm going to teach you by ear to if you haven't been on piano before, to find your way around the different chords and know what the chords are. And if you have been on piano, I'll, get you from one level to another. And if you want to write your own songs, we'll do that. Whatever it is you want to do. And so I've been starting with some students locally, um, but I'm also going to be doing it virtually. I got to just get a second camera that points down on the keyboard so the
Oh, so
student
you haven't
can
done
see.
virtual yet. You're going to
No,
start.
no virtual yet. It's all been here locally. So if anybody wants to do that, they can get in touch with me on Facebook Messenger. Just say that you heard it on Blaine's World, and I'll hook up, and we'll see what we can
Now,
do.
for somebody to learn this piano with BJ, how long does it, first of all, they have to have a piano or a keyboard that would help?
Well, it would help, but if they don't, I have a portable one, 88 key, full thing, and I come and I, set up a small amp, and if they sing, microphone, that kind of thing. Um, so no, they don't have to have anything, but if they have or even a regular piano, an acoustic piano, I'll come and check it out.
It would help. So how long does it take for somebody to learn how to play piano with BJ?
I'll tell you that next time we talk, when I've had the chance to take somebody who's never played piano before. The people I have now have some long ago experience with playing the piano. So to them, they're sort of re-remembering what it was like. And basically I run them through easy little exercises based on pop tunes that they know. For instance, this is the Hey Jude exercise. Dun, 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 dun. Don't make it bad. Dun, dun, dun. Take a sad. You hear that chord? That's the cool Beatle chord. It's a G seventh, but we call that cool Beatles.
But I love it that they don't even have to be able to read music, which is
No,
pretty cool.
probably the reason I didn't give lessons all these years because I was afraid that people were going to want me to teach them how to read music, and I couldn't promise that. I can certainly promise to help them get to the point where they play like I do, which is I'm a drummer. You've seen me play. I beat the living hell out of a piano. And so, and it's a percussion instrument, strangely enough. I didn't know that until much later in my bon vivant life.
Well, you also are a very enthusiastic, piano player, which is kind of cool to
Well,
watch.
it might look enthusiastic to you. What's really happening is I'm scared as shit. That's what's happening. Sorry. And I'll do that again. What's really happening is I am scared to death up there.
I'm not going to edit. That's
You're not
cool.
gonna, okay.
So if people want to get into that, best thing is you said Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, if they don't have my deets, if they don't have my number or my email, and I'm not going to give that out right here, but everybody knows how to use Facebook Messenger, and I'm on Facebook, so it'll pop through.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And so the lessons, how many are you giving right now? You have a bunch of students you're giving lessons to?
I've got five put on the calendar now, and it's getting pretty busy. Some of them want once a week, and some of them want every other week. And I'm just feeling this out as far as scheduling and stuff like that. So I give it's between a 1 and a 2 hour session from the time I get there.
Okay, so you can go to their place or they can come to your place.
Right now, it's just me coming to their house very shortly, and by that I mean when I get this. I'm sitting in a recording studio right now. Yes, I do have a. I am growing dental floss behind me. That's why I've got this backdrop. So I don't want to see all the dental floss I'm growing. Uh, I got to get the studio cleaned up and ready for prime time before I bring someone in here.
And let me put you on the spot, BJ. Final
Sure.
question.
Yep.
Moving down the road, so we have the piano lessons, very cool. You have this big concert coming up. You have the possible documentary, movie, podcast, whatever. Anything else in the works?
Yeah. And this is you probably will not want to interview me for this one because all this other stuff I'm doing is stuff that's helping me avoid what I believe I was put here on this earth to do. And I can't mention that what it is to you now, but it's very serious and it's very controversial. I can hint, yes, I've been out there working, writing songs, doing whatever on social media for peace and nonviolence and, you know, to get people to get their heads right about each other. But there's one thing that a person can do, and I've done it, and I've done it by mistake. I didn't really plan to get to live this long without having children. But there's a movement afoot, and it's been afoot for quite a while. I just want to find a way, I hate to use the word package it, but to put it in terms that people will understand and not feel threatened and still can understand that by doing or not doing a certain thing in their life, they can, in effect, end all pain and suffering. Absolutely 100% for one possible person. And that's all the hint I'm going to give you.
And I remember you and I talked about this off the air one time. It's kind
Ah,
of
okay.
interesting the thing you're working on. And I
Yeah.
guess, BJ, the only thing I'm missing here, so we talked about all the other stuff you're doing. So when do we have BJ the autobiography or the biography?
I don't think as I look back on some of this footage and some of the tape, and I'm looking at some of the transcripts, now we can, so I'm just shaking my head and I'm going, look, none of this can come out until I'm dead. This is all after I've gone to Switzerland and, done it.
So
Um,
there's something people can look forward to.
they can look forward to it. I don't know if even their grandchildren will ever see it. Maybe their children will see it. But if some of this stuff gets out now, I'm going to have to run. I don't know. I got to run, man.
Anyway, BJ, I love speaking with you. Long time no speak. And
Likewise, Blaine. Thank you for
thank
having
you
me
very
on.
much. Thank you for being my guest on this edition of Blaine's World Show. Also to my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And hopefully we'll either see you on, was it 28th?
So the last Sunday of the month, 28th, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon
28th or some other time around that
at
time.
Highland Brewing.
Okay, BJ, you be well, my friend. Thanks
You
much.
too. Mwah. Thank you. Bye.